every fortune leaves evidence. In the winter of 1637, a single flower bulb sold for more than a grand house on the finest canal in Amsterdam. Not the flower, the bulb, a brown, wrinkled lump of nothing still asleep in the dirt. Men signed away farms, workshops, and life savings for a tulip they would never even see bloom. Then, in a single week of February, all of it turned to nothing. You already know this story, the madness, the ruined men throwing themselves into the canals. It is the most famous financial bubble in history, the warning every investor is taught. There is only one problem, almost none of it is true. This is the autopsy of a crash that barely happened and the lie that became immortal. Money Autopsy, File 6, the bubble that lied about itself. To understand the flower, you have to understand the place. 1630s, Holland was the richest society on the planet. A tiny republic of merchants had built the world's first stock market and a global empire of trade. Spice ships came home so heavy with profit that ordinary tradesmen suddenly had money to spare and nowhere thrilling to put it. Into that restless wealth arrived a flower unlike anything Europe had seen. The tulip came from the Ottoman Empire, and its colors were impossibly vivid against the gray Dutch sky. The most prized of all were the broken tulips, their petals streaked with flames of color, each one unique. No one knew that those beautiful flames were the work of a virus, slowly killing the plant from within. To own a rare tulip was to announce your wealth and your taste in one silent gesture. The rarest of them all was the Semper Augustus. Perhaps a dozen bulbs existed on Earth. Their owners guarded them like crown jewels and recorded every sale in careful ink. But here is the strange part. For most of the year, the bulbs were underground and could not be dug up without killing them. So the Dutch did not trade flowers at all. They traded paper, promises to deliver a bulb months later. They called it the wind handle, the trade in the wind, buying and selling air. Taverns became stock exchanges. A contract might change hands 10 times in a day, and not a single flower ever moved. Prices doubled, then doubled again, then again. Nobody was buying tulips to grow them. They were buying because tomorrow someone would pay more. It is the oldest engine in finance, the greater fool. You overpay, certain a greater fool will overpay you. In 3 months, the most prized bulbs jumped more than tenfold. At the very top, a single Semper Augustus bulb was valued at 10,000 guilders. That was the price of a fine house on an Amsterdam canal, servants and garden included. A skilled craftsman earned perhaps 150 guilders in a year. The bulb was 60 lifetimes of work. Then, on a February morning in Harlem, a routine tulip auction opened as always. The auctioneer called the first lot, and for the first time, no one answered. No buyers, no bids, just silence, and the sudden shared understanding that the music had stopped. Word raced across the Republic. In a matter of days, the most expensive bulbs on Earth were worth almost nothing. And here is where the legend takes over. The story we inherited says the crash destroyed the Dutch economy, ruined thousands, and drove broken men to drown themselves in the canals. It is vivid, it is terrifying, it is the reason you have heard of tulips at all. And almost all of it was written 200 years later by a Scottish journalist named Charles Mackay. In our own time, a historian named Anne Goldgar did something almost no one had bothered to do. She went into the actual Dutch archives and read the real records, court files, sale books, estate papers, for years. She went looking for the ruined men, the bankruptcies, the bodies in the canals. She found almost nothing. Not one person she could confirm was bankrupted by tulips. Fewer than 400 people were seriously involved. Only 37 ever paid a truly extravagant price. The Dutch economy did not so much as flinch. Holland kept right on getting richer. Most of the wild contracts were simply never honored. The courts refused to enforce debts over flowers, and life went on. The real damage was not to wealth. It was to trust, to honor, to the web of promises that held a merchant town together. So why does the lie survive when the truth is one archive away? Because we need it. It is the perfect morality tale. Greed rises, greed is punished, order returns. The real bubble was never the tulips. It was the story itself. repeated, inflated, and resold by people who never checked, each passing it on at a higher price than they paid, exactly like a bulb. The tulip leaves us two lessons, and the second is the dangerous one. First, a price is only a story we agree to tell, right up until the moment we stop telling it. Second, be very careful which crashes you fear, because some of them were sold to you long after the fact. The most expensive bubbles are not in the market. They are in your own head. 6 files now, and the tulip is the strangest autopsy of them all. The lottery winner, the athlete, the nation, the bank, the inventor. Each of them lost something real. The tulip lost almost nothing and became the most famous loss in history anyway. Because a good story will always outsell the truth. If this file earned it, subscribe and drop a comment with a thing everyone believes that simply is not true. Next on the table, the hardest man alive. He earned $400 million with his fists and ended up hundreds of millions in debt with a mansion full of tigers and no idea where any of it went. Every fortune leaves evidence.